This channel is currently sponsored by the veteran journalist and author Greg Palmer. He is promoting his new book called Infinity. Hang with us to the end, and we'll tell you more about it. Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to Mr. Freebooter's channel. Well, I've been press-ganged by Mr. Freebooter to talk to you all again today. He sails the seas off the coast of California in his new pirate sloop, Queen Anne's Revenge, looking for more digital plunder. Today we are going to talk about the excellent Netflix series, Manifest. Mr. Freebooter said that Mrs. Freebooter loved it so much that she forced him to watch it with her by tying him to a chair and taping his eyes wide open. Despite his initial reluctance, it grew on him over time, and his verdict was that the series is so bad that it's brilliant. I know, it sounds crazy, but hear me out. I've got a laundry list of reasons why this show is a train wreck, but somehow it's managed to become a guilty pleasure that we just can't quit. So, grab some popcorn, settle in on the sofa with your loved ones, and let's dive into the wild world of Manifest. First things first, let's talk about the premise. If you haven't heard, Manifest is all about a plane that mysteriously disappears for 5 years and then suddenly reappears. The passengers haven't aged a day, and they start experiencing these weird, almost supernatural visions or callings. Sounds intriguing, right? Well, that's where the fun begins. The show kicks off with a bang, literally. The plane hits some turbulence, and then it's gone for half a decade. We've got plenty more to discuss about why Manifest is so delightfully bad. One of the things that makes this show so hilariously awful is the dialogue. I mean, the writing is just pure gold. It's like they asked a middle schooler who just discovered the thesaurus to pen the script. The characters spew out lines that are so cheesy and cringe-worthy that you can't help but laugh. It's almost like they're trying to be profound, but it comes across as unintentionally hilarious. And let's not forget about the characters themselves. You've got your typical family drama going on, but it's cranked up to 11. There's a long-lost twin brother, a mother who becomes a religious zealot because of the callings, and a teenage daughter who's just perpetually angry at the world. And let's not get started on the love triangles that makes Twilight look like a masterpiece of romantic storytelling. But the best or worst part is the central character, the gorgeous Michaela Stone. She's a cop who is on the flight and becomes the show's moral compass. She's also the worst cop ever. She bends or breaks the law whenever it suits her, and her decision-making skills are so questionable that you'll be shouting at your TV screen. But hey, she's got those callings, so I guess that makes it all okay. Let's talk about the ensemble of annoying characters that get under your skin and make you want to scratch yourself raw. Manifest has its fair share of annoying characters, and trust me, they're like nails on a chalkboard. But in a show that's so bad it's good, sometimes you need a few irritants to keep things interesting. So, let's dive into the world of the most grating characters the show has to offer. First up, we've got Adrian. He's the religious zealot who starts the Believers cult. Now, I mentioned earlier that his charisma is impressive, but it's also infuriating. He's so blindly devoted to the callings that it's hard to take him seriously. And his self-righteousness reaches epic levels. He's like the guy at the party who won't stop talking about his conspiracy theories, and you can't escape him no matter how hard you try. Then there's Grace, Ben's classy beauty of a wife. How did a math professor end up with such a hottie? Who knows? Now, don't get me wrong. I get that her life was turned upside down when Flight 828 reappeared. But her indecisiveness and flip-flopping between Ben and her new husband are enough to make your head spin. It's like watching a tennis match, and you're the ball getting volleyed back and forth. For goodness sake, just make up your mind, Grace. And let's not forget about Olive, Ben, and Grace's teenage daughter. Now, teenagers can be difficult, but Olive takes it to a whole new level. She's constantly moody, rebellious, and quick to make questionable decisions. It's like she's trying to give her parents a heart attack with her impulsive behavior. Plus, her romantic entanglements add another layer of cringe to the mix. But perhaps the crown jewel of annoying characters is none other than the handsome hunky cop, Jared, who is Michaela's ex-fiancé. He's like a magnet for drama, and not in a good way. His inability to make up his mind about his feelings for Michaela and the lovely lords is a never-ending source of frustration. It's like he's stuck in a perpetual love triangle and can't find the exit. Perhaps he doesn't want to. Why don't they all just agree to polygamy instead of all this drama? And then there's the unbelievably beautiful Seonvi, the mysterious woman who joins the action in Season 1. While she starts off as an intriguing character, her decisions and actions become increasingly baffling as the series goes on. She's like a walking enigma, and not in a good way. Her choices often make you wonder if she's secretly working for the Major or just suffering from a severe case of brain damage. Now, don't get me wrong. Annoying characters can sometimes add a layer of complexity and drama to a show. But in Manifest, they often feel like they're taken to extremes, testing your patience and tolerance for absurd life choices. But here's the beauty of it all. Even though these characters can be grating, they also keep you coming back for more. Their infuriating decisions and actions add to the overall charm of the show. It's like a guilty pleasure that you can't resist, even when you want to shout at the screen in frustration. The love triangles in Manifest are like a tangled web of romantic drama, and they're as confusing as they are entertaining. So let's break down the romantic entanglements that keep you guessing and shaking your head in equal measure. Firstly, we have Michaela, Jared, and Lords. This is the granddaddy of all love triangles on the show. Michaela, our leading lady, is torn between her strikingly handsome ex-fiancé, Jared, and her loyalty to her best girlfriend, Lords. It's like a classic case of unresolved feelings that just won't go away. Jared moves on and marries Lords during those missing 5 years. But the sparks between Michaela and Jared refuse to die out. Their chemistry is palpable, and it's like watching a constant tug-of-war for Michaela's heart. Then there is Ben, Grace, and Seonvi. Ben, our resident investigator and family man, has his own love triangle going on. He's married to Grace, but during those 5 missing years, Grace moved on and married another guy, Danny. Then Seonvi enters the picture, and there's undeniable chemistry between her and Ben. It's like a love triangle on steroids, with Ben trying to navigate his feelings for both Grace and Seonvi, while also trying to decipher the mysteries of the callings. Moving on, we have Olive, Cal, and TJ. Now let's talk about that teenage drama. Olive, Ben, and Grace's daughter, finds herself in a love triangle of her own. She's got Cal, her brother, who miraculously hasn't aged a day, and TJ, a new character with a mysterious past and his own set of calling. It's like a teen soap opera, complete with jealousy, heartbreak, and awkward family gatherings. Just when you thought your brain was going to melt, we have Michaela, Jared, and Zeke. As if the initial love triangle involving Michaela, Jared, and Lords wasn't complicated enough, the introduction of the ridiculously good-looking Zeke in Season 2 takes it to a whole new level. Michaela and Zeke share a supernatural connection through the callings, which complicates her feelings for both Zeke and Jared. It's like a love quadrangle with a side of the supernatural, and you'll need Ben's charting skills to keep track of who's with who at any given moment. Moving on again, we have Jared's feelings for Michaela. Jared, the perpetual player in the love triangle game, has his own set of feelings to contend with. He's married to Lourdes, but his lingering feelings for Michaela just won't go away. It's like he's caught in a never-ending emotional tug-of-war, and you can't help but wonder he'll ever make up his mind. So, there you have it. The love triangles in Manifest are a whirlwind of unresolved feelings, complicated connections, and constant romantic tension. It's like an afternoon soap opera with a supernatural sci-fi twist, and it keeps you on tenterhooks, waiting to see who ends up with whom in this tangled mess of emotions. Now, let's talk about the callings themselves. These are the supernatural visions that the passengers start having, and they're supposed to be this central mystery of the show. But here's the thing, they're completely bonkers. One minute, you'll have a calling that's super vague and cryptic, like a jigsaw puzzle missing half its pieces. And the next, it's like you're watching a psychic hotline commercial. It's so all over the place that you can't help but wonder if the writers were just making it up as they went along. We're just getting started on this wild ride. Now let's talk about the pacing. Manifest is like a meteorite plunging to Earth, leaving a crater the size of the Grand Canyon. It races through plot points like it's on speed. And character development? Forget about it. You'll be lucky if you get a moment to catch your breath between all the twists and turns. And speaking of twists, this show lives for them. But not the good kind of twists that make you go, "Wow, I didn't see that coming." No, these are the kind of twists that make you shake your head and say, "Seriously? Again?" It's like the writers realized they wrote themselves into a corner and decided to throw in a random curveball to keep things interesting. It's a twist-a-palooza, and it's so bad that it's good. Despite all the ridiculousness, Manifest somehow manages to be strangely addictive. It's like a guilty pleasure that you just can't quit. You'll find yourself rolling your eyes and groaning at the screen, but you'll also be itching to see what happens next. It's a never-ending cycle of, "I can't believe I'm still watching this," and yet you just can't look away. Just like driving past a car crash. And let's not forget about the internet fan theories. Manifest has spawned a whole community of fans who are constantly coming up with wild theories and speculations about the show's mysteries. It's like a puzzle that's missing half its pieces, and everyone's trying to fill in the gaps. Even if the show itself doesn't always make sense, the fan theories sure do provide some entertainment. But perhaps the most baffling thing about Manifest is that it somehow manages to tackle some pretty heavy themes amidst all the chaos. It delves into questions about fate, free will, and the consequences of our actions. Sure, it might not always do it gracefully. But hey, at least its writers are giving it their best shot, right? And let's not forget about the visual effects. While the show might be a blob of tangled, overcooked spaghetti in terms of writing and plot, the CGI and production values are surprisingly decent. The plane disappearance scenes are pretty cool, and the callings are visually intriguing, even if they don't always make sense. One of the things that keeps you coming back to Manifest is its commitment to being over-the-top dramatic. The characters are constantly in life or death situations, and their reactions are so overblown that you can't help but chuckle. It's like they took a page out of the afternoon soap opera handbook and gave it an extra side of detergent. And let's not forget about the antagonists. Every good show needs some compelling villains, right? Well, Manifest tries its best, but the villains often end up being hilariously one-dimensional. They're usually either government agents with ulterior motives or shadowy organizations with vague agendas. It's like they raided the cliché villain playbook and ran with it. But here's the beauty of it. You can't help but root for the good guys, even if they're making the dumbest decisions imaginable. Michaela and her gang of passengers have this unshakable bond that's just so endearing. They're like a dysfunctional family that you can't help but love, flaws and all. You'll find yourself yelling at the screen, "No, don't do that," or "Don't go there," and then cheering when they somehow manage to come out on top. And then there are the romantic subplots. Oh boy, where do I even start? Manifest is a masterclass in will they, or won't they, tension, but it takes it to absurd levels. It's like the writers are playing a game of relationship roulette, spinning the wheel to decide who's going to be romantically involved this week. And just when you think they've settled on a couple, they throw in a curveball and mix things up again. It's so ridiculous that it's kind of genius. But let's not forget about the soundtrack. Manifest has this knack for choosing the most over-the-top music to accompany its most melodramatic moments. It's like they raided the archives of tear-jerker ballads and dramatic orchestral compositions. Every emotional scene is given a tear-jerking lithium tranquilizer pill by the swelling strings and mournful piano note. It's so on the nose that it's almost a parody of itself, and yet it works. Now, let's talk about the mysteries and unanswered questions. Manifest loves to dangle tantalizing mysteries in front of you and then never fully resolve them. It's like they're playing a never-ending game of keep the audience guessing. Who's behind the callings? What do they want? Why did the plane disappear in the first place? These are questions that you'll be asking throughout the series, and while you may get some answers, you'll also get a whole lot of new questions to ponder. And then there's the mythology. Every good supernatural drama needs a complex mythology, right? Well, Manifest certainly has one, but it's so convoluted and poorly explained that you'll need a flowchart and a team of forensic scientists just to keep track of it all. It's like they threw in every supernatural and religious trope they could find and hoped it would all make sense. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. But that's part of the fun of Manifest. It's a show that revels in its own absurdity. It doesn't take itself too seriously, and it knows that it's walking a fine line between drama and comedy. And somehow, it manages to strike that balance in a way that keeps you hooked, even if you're shaking your head in disbelief. Manifest is a roller coaster of melodrama, cheesy dialogue, and mind-boggling plot twists that will leave you simultaneously scratching your head and begging for more. Just be prepared for a wild ride, and don't be surprised if you find yourself addicted to the chaos. It's a guilty pleasure that you won't be able to resist. One of the most intriguing aspects of Manifest is its exploration of morality and ethics. As the passengers grapple with their newfound abilities and the consequences of their callings, the show delves into some pretty thought-provoking territory. It raises questions about the greater good versus personal gain, and whether it's right to use supernatural visions for, well, anything. It's like a philosophical debate wrapped in a cheesy afternoon TV drama. And it is oddly compelling. Now, let's talk about the symbolism. Manifest is all about those mysterious symbols that keep popping up everywhere, from the passengers' visions to the grander conspiracy at play. These symbols are like a breadcrumb trail of intrigue, and trying to decipher their meaning is like solving a puzzle that may or may not have an actual solution. It's the kind of symbolism that makes you feel like you're in on a secret, even if the secret itself is as elusive as a mirage. And then there are the scientific explanations, or lack thereof. Manifest tries to straddle the line between supernatural and science, but it often feels like it's making things up as it goes along. You'll hear terms like quantum entanglement and dark matter thrown around, but it's also vague and hand-wavy that you can't help but laugh. It's like they've got a mad scientist in the writer's room, scribbling equations on a chalkboard and hoping you won't question it too much. Maybe they've all been watching too many late-night shows about ancient aliens on the History Channel. But perhaps the most baffling element of Manifest is its ability to keep adding new characters and plot threads without warning. Just when you think you've got a handle on the main cast and their convoluted relationships, the show introduces a whole new batch of characters with their own set of mysteries and agendas. It's like they're playing a never-ending game of narrative whack-a-mole, and it's both frustrating and strangely addictive. Now let's talk about the sheer audacity of the show. Manifest is not afraid to go big, and I mean really huge. It throws out wild plot twists and revelations that are so outlandish, you'll wonder if the writers were just trying to outdo each other during their morning meeting coffee and Coke binges. It's like they're daring you to keep watching, to see just how far down the rabbit hole they can go. And you know what? It's hard to resist that kind of audacity. And speaking of audacity, let's not forget the cliffhangers. Manifest has perfected the art of leaving you hanging on the edge of your seat at the end of every episode. It's like they've got a team of evil geniuses who plot out the most tantalizing cliffhangers imaginable, designed to keep you coming back for more. It's a masterclass in addictive storytelling, even if the story itself is utterly bananas. But here's the thing. Despite all the flaws and absurdities of Manifest, it's got a strange kind of charm. It's like the underdog of TV shows, the one you root for even when it's stumbling and tripping over its own plot holes. It's a testament to the power of storytelling, even when that storytelling is a chaotic mess. All right, buckle up, my friends, because we're about to dive down the rabbit holes into the convoluted world of Manifest Season 1. Prepare yourself for the absurdity of it all. So, we start with Flight 828, a seemingly ordinary plane that hit some turbulence while flying from Jamaica to New York. But here's the kicker. When it finally lands, the passengers are told that 5 years have passed since they took off. Yep, 5 whole years. But they haven't aged a day, but everyone they know has got older. Talk about a shocker. Among the passengers are the Stone family, led by the earnest and perpetually confused Ben Stone. He's your archetypical loving dad, just trying to keep his family together. But he's also got a knack for getting involved in all the plain supernatural shenanigans. Then there's Michaela Stone, Ben's super hot sister who's a cop and basically the show's moral compass. She's got a call to service, and by call, I mean she starts hearing voices and experiencing visions. These are the infamous callings. These visions often lead her to rescue people and prevent accidents, but they're cryptic as heck and seem to have a mind of their own. Meanwhile, Ben's wife, the gorgeous Grace, and their twin kids, Cal and Olive, are dealing with their own set of issues. Grace moved on during those missing 5 years and married another guy, but she still got feelings for Ben. Olive, on the other hand, has gone from a cute little girl to a full-blown teenager, which leads to all kinds of awkwardness. And speaking of awkwardness, Ben's got his own baggage to deal with. He meets a mysterious woman named Seonvi, who is on the same flight, and they bond over their shared callings experiences. Well, gentlemen, Mr. Freebooter says that his future wife Saonvi is not up for grabs and so hands off. She always looks fantastic. Even when she's just pulled an all-nighter in the lab, she still looks heartbreakingly gorgeous. But Ben's also got a major case of jealousy when he finds out that wife Grace was getting cozy with someone else during those 5 years apart. But here's where things get even more absurd. The callings are not just random visions, they're also of interest to a shadowy organization led by the Major. They want to harness the power of the callings for their own evil purposes, naturally. And they'll stop at nothing to get what they want. Oh, and did I mention the religious zealot? Yep. There's a character named Adrian who becomes obsessed with the callings and starts a cult around them. He believes they're a divine message, and it's painful for us as he gains more and more followers. But wait, there's more. Remember those symbols I mentioned earlier? Well, they keep popping up everywhere, and they seem to be the key to unraveling the mysteries of the callings and Flight 828. It's like a treasure hunt, but instead of gold, they're searching for answers to all their bizarre questions. Now, let's talk about the love triangles, because every good TV drama needs one, right? Michaela's got her eyes on Jared, her ex-fiancé, who has moved on and married her best friend Lourdes. Talk about complicated relationship dynamic? It's like a soap opera on steroids, and it's hard to keep track of who's with who at any given moment. Jared and Michaela somehow share this supernatural connection, and it's like their love triangle is now a love quadrangle with a side of supernatural drama. And let's not forget about Cal, the boy who's still a kid at heart, even though he's technically a teenager. He's got his own set of callings and visions, and he's like a pint-sized prophet, spouting out cryptic messages that somehow hold the key to everything. As the season progresses, the passengers and their loved ones get deeper and deeper into the mysteries of Flight 828. They uncover government conspiracies, secret experiments, and more twists than you can shake a stick at. It's like the writers threw every supernatural and sci-fi trope into a blender and hit the Frappo button. And why do these undercover agents all drive around in conspicuous, gleaming black SUVs? But through it all, you can't help but be strangely captivated by the chaos. Manifest Season 1 is a hot soup of melodrama, absurd plot twists, and characters making questionable life choices. It's like a guilty pleasure that you just can't quit, no matter how much it makes you roll your eyes. Friends, it's okay for you to scream at the TV. Okay, let's move on and talk about the labyrinthine world of Manifest Season 2. If you thought Season 1 was a wild ride of mysteries and melodrama, well, you ain't seen nothing yet. Get ready for more baffling plot twists, bizarre callings, and character decisions that will leave you scratching your head and questioning reality. Season 2 picks up right where Season 1 left off, with the passengers of Flight 828 still grappling with their newfound supernatural abilities, also known as the callings. Michaela is still hearing voices in her head. Ben is still the family's resident investigator, and Cal is still a walking enigma of cryptic messages and visions. Meanwhile, the ominous Major is still lurking in the shadows, determined to harness the power of the callings for their own mysterious agenda. The Major is like the boogeyman of the series, popping up when you least expect it and wreaking havoc. Oh, and speaking of havoc, remember the religious zealot Adrian from Season 1? Well, he's back and crazier than ever. He's now the leader of a full-blown cult called the Believers, and he's convinced that the callings are the work of the divine. It's like watching a plane wreck in fast forward as he gains even more followers, and his charisma is both impressive and fanatical. But that's not all. The show introduces a whole new set of characters and mysteries in Season 2. There's Zeke, a guy who won first prize in the grand genetic lottery of good looks, who miraculously survived freezing to death in a cave for a year and now has his own set of callings. He becomes romantically involved with the red-hot cop Michaela, adding yet another layer to the already tangled web of relationships on the show. But here's where things get even more absurd. Remember those symbols from Season 1? They're back, and they're even more central to the plot. The passengers are now on a quest to decipher the meaning of these symbols, and it's like a treasure hunt with supernatural consequences. The clock is ticking, and they all know that they are going to die in a few years on the death date if they don't follow their visions or callings. It's like watching a game of cosmic Scrabble with the fate of the world hanging in the balance. And let's not forget about the ever-complicated love triangle, now more like a love hexagon. Michaela's still torn between Jared, her ex-fiancé who's now divorced from Lourdes, and Zeke, the new guy in town with his own set of callings. As for the government conspiracy angle, that's still going strong. The Major is pulling strings behind the scenes, and the passengers are determined to expose the truth. It's like a game of cat and mouse, with the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. But perhaps the most mind-boggling aspect of Season 2 is its commitment to going bigger and bolder with each episode. The plot twists are even more outlandish, the callings even more cryptic, and the character decisions even more head-scratching. It's like the writers are daring you to keep watching, to see just how far down the rabbit hole they can take you. So, get ready for more madness, more questions, and more inexplicable plot twists with Season 3. Season 3 picks up where Season 2 left off, with the passengers of Flight 828 still trying to make sense of their mysterious disappearance and return. The season starts with the passengers of Flight 828 being called to testify in front of a Senate subcommittee investigating their disappearance. This leads to tensions between the passengers and the government as they try to keep their abilities and experiences secret. Meanwhile, loving dad in Flight 828 super sleuth Ben Stone continues to investigate the callings that he and other passengers have been receiving. He discovers that they are connected to a group of people who have been experiencing similar phenomena throughout history. As the season progresses, the passengers begin to experience more dangerous and life-threatening callings. They must work together to solve them and prevent disaster. One of the major storylines of the season involves the character of Grace, who is pregnant with Ben's child. She begins to experience her own set of callings. This is because the child's father is Ben, a passenger on Flight 828 and her former husband. This leads to complications with her pregnancy. The season ends with a major cliffhanger, as the passengers of Flight 828 are once again transported through time. They find themselves back in the year 2018, before their disappearance, with no memory of what has happened since. So, Season 3 of Manifest is full of twists and turns, as the characters continue to grapple with the mysteries surrounding their disappearance. While the season has its flaws, it sets up some interesting storylines for the final season. The season picks up where Season 3 left off, with the passengers of Flight 828 still trying to make sense of their mysterious disappearance and return. Here's a rundown. The season starts with the passengers of Flight 828 being transported through time once again. They find themselves back in the year 2013 before their disappearance, with no memory of what has happened since. The passengers begin to experience more dangerous and life-threatening callings. They must work together to solve them and prevent disaster. One of the major storylines of the season involves the character of Ben Stone, who is struggling to come to terms with his new reality. He must navigate his relationships with his rescued daughter and his friends, all while trying to uncover the truth about what happened to him and the other passengers. Season 4 of Manifest is full of twists and turns, as the characters continue to grapple with the mysteries surrounding their disappearance. The ending of Season 4 Part 2 is not perfect, but it takes the characters where they need to go. The Manifest finale brings the story full circle, emphasizing the overarching themes of the series. It gives the majority of the main characters a concrete conclusion. Manifest is a show that has been both praised and criticized for its storytelling. While the series has its flaws, it manages to keep viewers engaged with its intriguing mysteries and complex characters. The ending of the series may be divisive, but it's clear that the show's creators did their best to tie up loose ends and give the characters a satisfying conclusion. Let's get down to the acting. The world of Manifest is not without its share of eyebrow-raising acting moments. And while it's all part of the show's charm, some performances do stand out as particularly, interesting. Now, it's important to remember that acting is subjective, and what one person might perceive as bad acting could be seen as a stylistic choice or simply a matter of personal taste. The cast of Manifest certainly faces the challenge of portraying characters caught in the middle of supernatural mysteries and emotional turmoil, and it's not always an easy task, especially as the actors don't have the benefit of hindsight and can see how things turned out like we can. They were driving in the dark without lights, so to speak. That being said, the occasional moments of questionable acting actually add to the show's charm. Manifest has developed a cult following precisely because it leans into its melodramatic tendencies and absurd plot twists. The over-the-top performances, in a strange way, become part of the show's unique appeal, making it a guilty pleasure for many viewers. The ending of Season 4 Part 2 isn't perfect, but it provides closure for the characters. The Manifest finale brings the story full circle, emphasizing the overarching themes of the series. When it comes to a show like Manifest, there's no satisfying everyone. Even if the series managed to address every question viewers had, some would have been disappointed with the answers they got. If one thing's inevitable with a long-running mystery-based show, it's that someone will be dissatisfied with the conclusion. Fortunately, Manifest gets the job done better than many similar stories. It may have fared much worse if it had gone on longer. In that sense, Netflix, who picked up the canceled show from NBC after Season 3, might have saved Manifest in more ways than one by only granting it one more season. The end of the series completed Cal's destiny in Manifest. They've known since Manifest Season 4 Part 1 that it would be on call to save them all. But only in the finale did it become clear what it was he was actually supposed to do. Having figured out that two Omega Sapphires have to be united, Cal connected his with the one from the Noah's Ark driftwood, which Sayanvi had placed in a fissure. Seemingly sacrificing himself by disappearing into the blue light, Cal created the blue beacon, which served the purpose of bringing all the passengers to a singular location. Not only that, but the combined power of the two Omega Sapphires, unleashed by Cal, fully restored Flight 828. Of the characters who made it past the death date, 3 more were at risk of dying in the finale. Sayanvi, presumably because she killed the Major in Season 2, almost died and even believed she deserved it. But with Ben at her side, who provided a reminder of all the good she's done in the series, she managed to hold on. The same was true for Egan and Adrian. Both have made their fair share of mistakes, but as Adrian demonstrated throughout Season 4, he's a good person at heart who genuinely tried to help the passengers. It admittedly took a bit longer for evil Egan to change, but his willingness to sacrifice his life for Adrian's in the finale was enough to earn him a future after Manifest's ending. When the passengers officially overcame the death date, all volcanic activity ceased, bringing the threat of the apocalypse to humanity to an end. But instead of landing and going back to their lives in 2024, the passengers found themselves back in 2013, on the exact date Flight 828 was meant to land. Beating God's tests granted the passengers opportunities to live the lives stolen from them in the series premiere. 11 passengers, including the evil psycho Angelina, didn't survive the death date. It's important to note that not every passenger survived the events of June 2, 2024. Each person on the plane had to prove whether they deserved to live or combust into ashes, just as they originally died in 2013. Paul, Randall, Autumn, Angelina, and 7 unidentified passengers all failed to pass God's judgment and met their ends in the finale. Let's talk about why the 828 passengers really disappeared. Now that it's all over, just why God put all this in motion and chose these particular passengers to save or destroy the world finally makes sense. As speculated by the passengers, they're a random group that represented a sample of humanity. Their decisions allowed God to decide whether humanity survived or perished in a volcanic apocalypse, just like Noah's family in the biblical flood. In the end, our Noah figure, Ben, realized that what they were put through wasn't the sacrifice they thought it was, but a gift, because all their lives will now be better than what they were before. Cal, for instance, won't die of cancer and will be cured by Sayanvi. As Michaela said in the Manifest finale, what God gave the passengers was the ultimate second chance. So, there you have it. The Manifest season 4 Part 2 finale was definitely a swirl of emotions, but it all came together in the end. We thank you for visiting with us today, and we hope that you enjoyed the ride. Please subscribe to the channel for more quality content and leave a like as a reward for all of Mr. Freebooter's researching on your behalf. And take a look at our sponsor, Mr. Greg Palmer's novel. The link is in the comments. The channel is sponsored by the journalist and author Greg Palmer. He is promoting his new novel called Infinity. Let me tell you a bit about it. The action of this novel takes place in several eras during the times of the Egyptian pharaohs. In the modern era, the action centers on England, Rome, and Israel. A university historian is forced to plunder high-value treasures of the past using a billionaire's secret prototype time-tunneling technology and must battle a psychopath back in deep time, as well as technological screw-ups and the universe itself. Edward Henson is at the peak of his academic career when he and his wife Katie are left critically injured by a car crash during a blizzard. A mysterious figure appears at the historian's hospital bedside and offers him a Faustian bargain. Full health aided by cutting-edge chip implants, upgrading his brain with all the knowledge of mankind. Or the bleak alternative, voluntary euthanasia. But if Henson accepts the deal, he must break with all of his academic ethics and travel back in time to steal the treasures of the past for his rich patron, Dominique Leblanc, a man who has almost everything money could ever buy. Meanwhile, Katie Henson is the millionaire's spare, but she escapes her patron's control and has plans of her own. Infinity is a fast-moving tale of love, betrayal, loss, and revenge, grounded on the latest academic research on the nature of space-time and time travel. Treat yourself to a fascinating, light read, which will remain with you long after you have finished the last chapter. Well, that's all for now. Hopefully, we will see you all again soon.